Hey guys, my name is Nicolette Mashile. I am also known as the Financial Bunny. Welcome to the Financial Bunny TV. Today I'm going to give you guys a live update of what's been happening in my personal life from a financial perspective, and also looking at some of the things that have been happening in the South African market that obviously are financial and would have some sort of direct impact in the way I do business or I do some of my work, right? Today's video is brought in partnership with Unity Wallet. Now, Unity Wallet is a cryptocurrency wallet where you are able to store, to send, to receive, and to swap over 250 different types. In other words, you get an opportunity to actually swap one cryptocurrency for another. So basically you are trading your cryptocurrencies. That's very interesting, right? But also what I find a whole lot more interesting about Unity Wallet is the fact that they are actually non-custodial. That means that you stay in control of any cryptocurrencies that you have received, that you have stored, that you are trading as you are swapping on that platform. So you can download their platform either from the App Store or from the Google Play Store if you are looking to actually use a wallet like theirs. So let's get into today's video. But before we do, please remember that none of my videos constitute as financial advice. If you are, however, looking for financial advice, please do speak to somebody that is certified and registered with the FSCA. Now, speaking about the FSCA, oh my goodness, they have shaken South Africa's content creation landscape. So they have come out in the last couple of weeks to say, look, we need to have some level of regulatory oversight over content that is being pushed out by what they're calling fin influencers, right? It's influencers and financial put together. So those who are creating content in the financial space. And I think the reason for this is because, remember, the FSCA is the watchdog literally on financial services providers, right? So they are actually there to regulate, manage, and make sure that financial services companies are actually compliant, they are not abusing consumers, and they are doing things to the book and based on what legislation we have in South Africa. Now, one of the biggest pieces of legislation there is the FACE Act, FAIS Act. And it basically is the piece of legislation that kind of regulates how financial advice and intermediary services are done in South Africa and who actually can do them. Now, one of the things we know is that you need to be a licensed financial advisor in this country operating under an FSP for you to be actually giving financial advice or offering intermediary service. Intermediary services would be like purchasing of a financial product, giving out advice with the intention of actually getting someone to purchase that financial product and then you doing that process of actually doing it. Now, it's important for me that this movement has happened by the FSCA, or important for us at Financial Bunny, because we really have been looking for some level of compliance around consumer financial education and the content that we're putting out on social media platforms, right? It's very difficult as a business to operate in a space that is not fully clear on its compliance and what you're doing. Obviously, we've always known about FACE Act, and that's why you will never, ever hear. And I mean, we try our level best. Maybe sometimes we make mistakes, but I don't think, those are intentional mistakes to misrepresent or to give financial advice to consumers. Our biggest thing has always been consumer financial education and not financial advice, right? So that's why we've always maintained that we are staying compliant to the FACE Act. That's why you will also hear disclaimers on all of the content that we're putting out, that we are not giving out any financial advice. Everything we say is financial education, and you as a consumer have the responsibility also to go and check out if the education we're giving you is correct. Now, there has been quite an interesting case that has now also been put out into the media. And it is the fact that African Bank has been fined 700,000 Rand by the FSCA for a campaign that they did back in 2023, right? They had I won't call her a financial influencer because that's not what she is, but basically they had a content creator who created a piece of content under a campaign. I think the campaign was called "It's Not Skoloto, Chomi, It's Invest." It's an investment. And obviously the FSCA was like, one, it is misrepresentation of what the product is. Two, you did not also make any disclaimers to say that this is an actual commercial advert. In other words, you have been paid by the bank to do this advert. And I think it's important. I think it's an important one because I think FSPs have a responsibility to not harm the consumers, but also to act responsibly based on some of the legislation that is available to them based on the mere fact that they are FSP. So very interesting to see where this thing is going to shape up. We have been lucky to be privy of some of the studies that the FSCA is doing around fin influencers. In fact, we have been a participant in those studies. So it's been a very interesting time in that space because whatever is going to be the outcome of it is going to be absolutely fantastic for the space. But also I think it's important that we also note freedom of expression, right? And we don't want to see the regulation then trumping freedom of expression because that's a basic right in the country. So when I say freedom of expression, I'm talking about, let's say, for instance, somebody who's got a following comes and speaks about, let's say, a savings product from one of the banks and how the savings product has been absolutely amazing for them. And then somebody else hears this and they decide, actually, I'm going to also take up the savings product that this person has taken because they've had great success with it. And then unfortunately, that person doesn't have success with it. And they come back to blame that content creator, right? The content creator was merely telling a story, a true a rendition of how things unfolded for them and their lives. And that's why in financial advice, there's a little thing called a needs analysis that needs to be done because not all financial products that are good for one person are good for the next person. It all depends on your circumstances. And in most cases, it's always a needs analysis that needs to be done. So I'm going to park that one and move on to the next one that has been happening. So I have finally taken the plunge and I'm doing my postgraduate diploma in financial planning. And it speaks back to this conversation around the FSCA, right? Because as I said, we have been in this for almost 9 years. We have not really had a proper sense of where compliance is going to go in terms of consumer financial education, financial coaching, the ability to write financial books. So we just thought, you know what? Maybe it is time that I get a directly linked degree to the work that I am doing. Even though I don't want to do financial advisory, I don't want to do financial planning for anybody, I do think that the knowledge is important. And let me tell you, it's been mind-blowing. I mean, first and foremost, look how thick this textbook is. This is called the South African Financial Planning Handbook 2025. It changes every single year. The authors of this book are absolutely amazing because they try to make everything as simple as possible. But one of the biggest things that I've learned is that financial planning and law go hand in hand. Because honestly, financial planning is about, the different acts and how those acts then dictate how some of your monies are going to be handled. For instance, you've got a matrimonial act. Your marriage regime will determine how your money is going to be either divided when you divorce or, disseminated when you die, right? The Wills Act also does the same thing. The Pension Act does the same thing. Succession planning does the same. The law of succession does the same thing. So it's really a whole lot of different types of legislation that ties back to finances. And every time I do an assignment on this thing, I keep asking myself, what am I being asked? Because really, it is actually so complex. And I take my hat off to all financial planners, especially certified financial planners, because the work that you are doing is absolutely amazing. And the knowledge you have acquired, that is even mind-blowing. And then the other part of it, of course, is financial psychology. So we also have a textbook in financial psychology. And this has been very important to me because it made me realize that it doesn't matter how great the financial plan is. If the person is stuck here by their psyche, it don't matter how great your plan is, they're not going to follow through on the plan. Oh, and the calculator is so complicated, guys. This is not an ordinary calculator. This is a very complicated calculator. But nonetheless, I am learning and, it's difficult at times because I don't really fully understand. But let me tell you, it shall end in CFP. All right? CFP, baby. Yes. Right. The next thing I've been doing is I'm one of those people that at the beginning of the month when I'm happy and excited and I can see all the income, I've sent out invoices, I've been paid, I will do all the right things, right? I will pay my stuff in ahead of time. I will put money away into my bond, extra money into my bond, extra money into my car loans. I will even put money into savings. Then there by mid-month, when I start getting frustrated and life is just showing me fire and I don't know if I'm going to make it at the end of the month, I start fetching money out of my actual savings account. I actually was thinking about it this morning as I was walking. I was like, you know what? It's better for like things like having unit trusts that are sitting with asset managers, because once that money is hoolered out of my account, I don't see it, I don't have access to it. It takes a job to actually try and sell those assets and get that money back into cash. And, so I'm just not great at saving where I can see the bank account that I'm saving into, because I will fetch that money, right? So basically I'm not saving, I'm just transacting. So I challenged myself to this 100 days envelope, right? So basically you've got 100 different types of envelopes with different numbers, 1 to 100. Each day represents a number or an amount that you need to put in. So we start off with 1 at 10. So day 1 is 10 Rand, day 2 is 20 Rand, day 3 is 30 Rand, so and so until day 100, which is 1,000 Rand. Now, obviously, I try to start at the back because these are the big numbers. These are the big figures that I need to put in. So I've got I think I've got 30 days worth of envelopes that are still empty. So I've done 70. So shout out to me. At the end of this, I will have 50,000 and 550 Rand. So you can see where I've ticked off. That's all the envelopes that I've actually managed to do. And the empty ones are the ones that I have not been able to do. Now, a lot of people argue this is inflation, it's going to erode your money. You're going to use the money if you need petrol. And the reality is it doesn't happen to me, because the motivation to fill each and every single one of these little envelopes is far stronger than losing and knowing I didn't fill it out, right? So every time I actually see these empty envelopes, I get so frustrated because I'm like, I need to do an extra job so I can make a little bit of money so I can fill all of those envelopes. I've gone as far as my helper and I have gone into a business. I've taken out all the clothes from my cupboard, all the clothes I have, the stock that I have left from when I ran a boutique in Bushbuckridge, I've given it to her and I've said, go and sell this. You take half of the money, I take the other half, and we are going to fill our book. So she also has her own book. So yeah, granted, people say inflation, but really inflation over a couple of 100 days, I don't think so. And then also there's a whole thing about people asking me about interest rate that I've been earning. Well, technically, I've done the interest rate account, and then the interest rate account in the middle of the month, I go fetch the money. So I'm losing there anyway. So rather this one, because this is visual motivation for me and it works for me. So I'm actually looking forward to filling those 30 days that are left and making that 50,550 Rand, right? The next thing is the VAT. Oh my goodness. 1 minute VAT is at 17%. That was the people on Twitter going wild, not understanding the calculation of the 2% or the 2 points or whatever it was being called. Me, myself, I didn't understand it. And then it was 15.5. And then now it's back at 15. And the one thing I realized about the VAT is how irresponsible I am as an entrepreneur. Can I tell you that I do all of my invoicing on the Sage platform, and I had not even gone to actually do the amendment on Sage. Everybody else was sending us. Banks were sending us, insurance companies were sending us, car tracking companies were sending us the updates. Even Wi-Fi companies were sending us updates that, VAT has changed, your installment is going to change. I, Kippy on the side, who also sends out invoices, had not even made the amendment on my side. So I realized actually how not so optimized I am in my business, that there are actually areas in my business where I realize now that I'm actually leaving money on the table because they're just simple, small things that I'm actually not doing. I'm not plugged in enough on running my business as an actual business. So I really need to just kind of get my head around this whole thing and start running this thing like an actual business. Right, then the next thing is the other day I got paid through cryptocurrency. Wow, what an amazing experience. I did not expect it to go that way. So obviously my experience with cryptocurrency has always been buying the cryptocurrency, holding it, then watching Bitcoin prices, because I had bought Bitcoin, watching Bitcoin prices like a hawk and thinking, I can't wait for it to skyrocket. And then after that, I moved to USD Tether. And I bought USD Tether a month before I actually traveled to the US, because that one is pegged to the US dollar, right? So I wanted to buy it at a certain price and just keep it there, right? So that's really how I've used cryptocurrency. I have not used it I actually had never received cryptocurrency from anyone. So this specific instance, I had an invoice that needed to be paid, and the gentleman who was sitting in the US actually paid it to me via cryptocurrency. And it was so easy, guys, to receive, and it was extremely, extremely affordable.